happens. Okay, so welcome back, step 2, hopefully. We'll be going forward with any luck. Okay, so I've got some oranges here. You know, feel free to take whatever paint you want from my bag if you're thinking I need that colour in particular. Just help yourself. What am I doing? I'm putting out a couple of oranges because I don't have the roses in yet. And I was saying to everybody, I kind of forgot to say this at the beginning actually, but to have a look at the jug. Whenever you're placing any flower really, have a look at the position of the flower in relation to the jug. I did that yellow flower, it was kind of a wild card because I was telling you about, so that shouldn't really be there. But I maybe just put the rose where that is. Oh, for God's sake, I could just, I don't even have water. I feel really unprepared. Just take one of mine and I'll call you over and then I have, Christina, can I just take
Yes,
yours,
of course, help yourself.
Do you know, I suppose maybe I should say it because you're probably having to battle with this a bit as well yourselves, but do you know that voice in your head that says you're making a balls up of this? Do you know the way, like the whole time you could have done that differently, tell them more, do less, speak more, do, all of that stuff. And maybe when we approach the easel, that is something that we need to contend with a little bit, you know, whatever the voice is saying to you. And then you kind of just do it anyway, like. And I think the very fact of moving with colour tends to dissipate that carry-on in the head. So I'm going to carry on with a little bit more, I didn't even bring brushes over there. There we are. And paper towel and water. I was going to carry on with just a little bit more of the green there to kind of bring it all up a little bit more into contrast in between the flowers. Yeah. A little bit more of that dark green as well. Let's use the dark green. Alright. And Veronica, you were speaking about, I think it's helpful to hear what things come up for you as you're working. I think it was you, Veronica, were talking about wanting to make the green a little bit darker than it is.
Oh yes, yeah.
And so one of the things I find helpful there is to make enough of it first, I suppose, on your palette, and for it not to be wet at all, for it to, the brush to be dry going into it. And then really you could be looking at the colour that you're making as you're looking at the colour you're aiming for as you're making it. And I'm just going to put a little bit more blue into that to make it a bit darker. So what I've got here is blue, brown and green together. And that's going to let me kind of begin, oh yeah, so sorry, I was talking about making it dark enough. And to make it dark enough, I think one of the things that makes a colour darker is to cross hatch. So one way and then another. If you go one way, sometimes it's lighter than you want it, so if you go in the opposite direction, it tends to deepen the tone a bit. But this is actually dark enough for what I want here, so don't have that trouble. But okay, right. So just to find the position of the flower, the lily flower, by painting the green up to meet it. I was talking about creating a little bit more structure in the flowers themselves. And so looking at the shape of the V in between those two, and then as it gets a bit too dry, then it is helpful to put some water onto the brush then to make it continue fluidly moving around for you. And regularly standing back too will let you know really what needs to happen next. Like when I half close my eyes and stand back there, I feel like I want to bring in some more dark green in here. So there's the 2 areas of dark there. And then in between those white flowers as well, we've got some dark greens. And even the background dark is not unlike the green of the leaves there. Okay. I'm trying to think what would be the most helpful area to work on. I've kind of already explained a flower like that really, so maybe it would be helpful to do the shape of the lily. I know you don't have lilies down there at yours, but you will tomorrow if they don't all die. And also I think it's kind of helpful to just have, you know, to focus on one flower in particular and judge how best we can explain it. So yeah, I'll focus on this lily for now. I was going to do God, I did say I was going to do the white flowers as well, but it'll be the same as that really earlier, but just to begin with an area. What I can do actually, Alison and Anna, is I can do a separate demonstration if you want to, just a really quick thing around the white flowers, because I think I said to you that I'd do that. So just to lay down the ground of the white is helpful, and then you can let that be and eat back into it, you know, the same way as I was talking about there with your square brushes, just to make the shapes of the spaces between the square brushes. Okay, so now the lily. So you've got something of the shape of it, but as I was talking to you about it, Alison, I was noticing that this side of it is significantly lower than that side there, and also it probably needs to be brought down a bit, or a bit of paper added on. But let's pretend that's paper there, okay? Because I want to just do it without faffing around anymore. But actually, can I just show them Helen what you've done, Jenny and Lisa? Is that okay to show what you've done with the? Because you can add on bits of paper.
Teacher's pet.
Well, it's just because she's doing what I was inclined to do there, you know, adding on the lily, adding on a bit of paper. It's quite playful, isn't it, to have bits wherever you want them to break the boundary of the space around the painting. So, given time now, I could put on a piece of paper just like Jenny has done there, meeting flush with the top of the lily, with the top of the page. I mean, I think that's in the same position. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to get some Payne's Grey. Did I put Payne's Grey on your list? I don't know if I did.
No, you didn't.
Okay. I'm going to make it so with something. Or you can use my Payne's Grey if you want to, but I think I'll just make some with red. Oh God. Red and green, and I think actually red and brown and ultramarine blue will give me a kind of Payne's Grey colour. I wish I could show you. Auntie, can I use one of the palette like that's separate?
Yeah, it's standing at the back of the chair, beside my bag. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, because it's quite helpful to have a palette to hold so that you can see the colour that you're aiming for as you're making it. And let's see as well, need a little bit more yellow into that. So when it's too purple, the opposite of purple is yellow. And so that's what I would put into, is the yellow paint there. See, Pat, could you pass over that yellow? Thanks very much. So the opposite of purple is yellow, and in order to make it a greyer colour, you can put in the opposite. Or like Van Gogh's fields of, wheat fields or something, there's purples and yellow beside each other, and they excite each other when they're beside each other, and they cancel each other out when they're painted in. So I'm trying to make a colour that is similar to this, which is Payne's Grey. That sounds a bit like it. So a bit of blue in there. Anyway, it's not far off there now. Okay. The reason I'm doing that is because I see the background here as being a kind of a greyish colour. And if I want to make a colour that's going to let the lily really sing out, I think with my eyes half closed generally, it's generally darker, especially coming in from above. As the day goes on, the floor gets brighter and it shines up onto the ceiling. But anyway, I think it's generally a little bit darker in there than the petal. And really below it probably gets a little bit lighter. We can put a bit of white into it. Okay. And then it'll be dark over there again on the other side. And we were noticing that this petal was significantly higher, weren't we, than the other one? And so it'll probably extend beyond the boundary of the page there. Okay. I probably could do with putting on a little bit of large paper onto that petal. I have set an alarm, so it's not going to go on indefinitely. I don't need you that one. And a little bit of the skin. I think if it's flush with the flower, if it's flush with the flower on the inside, that's the main thing. It's flat coming in there. A little bit of touch of it on the end of that as well. Just a little bit smaller. I suppose the reason I'm wanting to do this in front of you is kind of to show that you kind of come up with stuff as you work that might work for things. You won't really know in advance like what it is exactly is going to be the thing you want to do. Every move leads on to the next move. Every move makes you feel like you have to think laterally. You have to kind of think, shit, what'll I do now? How will I make it work now? Maybe not shit, but yay! It's a similar kind of thing, isn't it? You say that, yeah. Excitement and fear. Okay, so there's a dark one facing me there as well. And then actually this is ink with a stick. We could use even a stick from the garden. But first I want to put on some oil pastel to get the stain in a quite light green. Melting in the sun there. So the light green colour of the stain, let me see. I think, because the thing is, if you work up to the mark and find something that really will get what it is you want to say, you don't have to do an awful lot then. Like once you decide the material you're going to use and the colour you're going to use, that'll most swiftly get you what you're wanting. There isn't an awful lot of labour on here. It's kind of the working up to the mark and deciding what it is that needs to be used. So take your time selecting stuff. Let's see. I have a feeling now that these two together might be okay. I'm using oil pastel because it's going to cover over the acrylic effectively. Now that's a really bright green, and I wanted to put some white into it to stop it being so bright. I mean, it's a yellow green really. I'm talking about making things simple, and then I've got 4 layers of oil pastel for one stem. But it is that feeling of wanting to get it just, I think that, yeah, so the yellow with the white might be more of an effective colour there. And I think the ink now might bring back that fine edge that the lily has. There's a lovely fine quality to lilies, isn't there? So just using the stick dipped into the ink, I'm going to use it to find the shape of the space between these petals here as well. There's a darkish space in the ceiling beyond. And you know, I don't really so much like that big green thing coming down there. So I'm going to use the acrylic over it, which is probably not really allowed, but for a small space I think it's okay. You wouldn't want to be painting loads of acrylic over oil pastel or anything. Kind of getting there. Are you still okay to sit for another tiny bit? Is that alright? Because I feel like I want to kind of have some sort of closure on this for your benefit, like. And just so bringing in maybe something of the lighter colour that's at the bottom of the lily as well there. And that colour could also be used for the staining, couldn't it? Okay. And then just a little bit of the more rich reddish brown colour. Yeah. I'm trying to remind myself, I guess the thing is, I would encourage you to take each individual, after you've found the position of all the flowers, to come come back in and looking at the individual ones, then see what's the next step to making my image of this closer to what it is that I enjoy about it. You know, what is the next thing that I can do to make what inspires me about that flower happen on my paper?
Mhm.
It's a long-winded way of saying it, but you'll have your own response, you see. And what I'm kind of, I suppose it feels risky what I'm doing, because I don't know what my response is going to be, but it's that thing that I encourage you to look for in your, you know, that unknown territory. Let yourself approach every flower with like this fresh, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm going to do my best to pull out what it is that makes me feel alive when I look at these flowers. You know, I want to really find my response. And there's inks, you see this stuff, like I'm looking at that pink, it's kind of showing that we're there, like there's stuff like this that, and you might really want to put this on the floor to properly do it, but you know, you can draw with the ink if it would work. It's a nice colour though, isn't it? Look at that. And sometimes that's, even if it's not exact, like Matisse, exactitude is not truth. Sometimes there are things that you know is going to make you feel like that's it. And it needs to be bright enough. And so find whatever it is. Don't tolerate second best for things. Like, if you really want to, yeah, do you know what I mean? And then there's acrylic, or there's alcohol ink as well, which does, if you feel really stuck and you just want to try something new, like, put it on the floor and lose it. Be prepared to lose it a bit. I think there needs to be this, or I know myself anyway, the most satisfying paintings are the ones where I'm not holding on hard to things and letting it breathe and see what it is that, you know. And as soon, if you do feel like you're going to be really careful, it is helpful, I think, to put the painting on the ground. Maybe get yourself, this is the little final thing, you know, maybe get yourself a big brush. What about that one? And you could use the Payne's Grey colour, I guess. I'm going to cheat and actually use it. You can use the Payne's Grey if you want to from my tube. And say, yeah, so I want to do something big that'll kind of move it on. And so, holding the painting like that. Oh, for fuck's sake, sorry. I'm going to let it run. Thanks, Christina. A bit more Payne's Grey on the brush. I don't really know now if I'm covering over things that I later want to do stuff to, but I'm kind of willing to do that so that I don't feel complacent, you know, and just let it be a little bit lost for a while. Because I think there's a thing, I think it's worth sacrificing even stuff that you might like about it in order to not have the end result in mind. Oh, this is good, I'm pleased with myself. You know, that kind of feeling. I think it's quite a good idea to, like, I know that place myself where I'm kind of thinking, oh, that's good enough, it'll be alright, like. And then it's quite nice to just maybe give yourself permission to really explore and really play, because it's not often we have space and colour and all the rest of it, the time, you know, looking for the half an hour in the day, like, it's not often that we have the time to fully bring ourselves to the table and let our colours emerge and our response. And you've got the facility here and the space, and you know, just let yourself play, really. It is very much, I think, about play, the spirit of that we all have, you know, vibrating within us, waiting to be. Anyway, that's enough, carry on. But, yeah, and you can then, you know, it'll surprise you. If you do something new will occur. And you know, it might not be grey, it might be bright blue. You know, you might have other colours that you really, I need to let you go away and enjoy yourselves because I'm having too much fun now. You know, let yourself kind of experiment with stuff. And alcohol ink in that colour as well, actually. Which it responds to the water, the alcohol ink a bit. So there's boxes of ink, I'll leave them on the table there if you want to play with them. And the final thing I'm going to say is oftentimes, and of course you need to look back at the flowers occasionally too. You know, but it's quite nice to really just lose it and then have to kind of grapple with it again. But working with your non-dominant hand is a lovely way often of creating an organic line. And I would recommend looking, it's only that I want to talk to you, I would recommend in that case looking at what it is that you're working from. And like using the line with your left hand or non-dominant hand to draw really faithfully what you're seeing, but your hand will have an organic quality of mark that'll bring something new in. Okay, I think that's all that I want to say, and just really standing in full support of you, you know, letting yourself do whatever you feel, you know, even if it ends up, maybe especially if it ends up chaos. Day one is allowed, you're allowed to really, you know, let it be chaos. And maybe have a couple on the go if you feel like you can't really expand as much as you want in one. You could always have another painting on the other side. And if this isn't what you're wanting, like if you're not wanting to go wild and free all the way, you know, that's okay. Like it might be that what you're wanting, what you're needing is calm, quiet, slow movements and letting the water direct the pigment, and, you know, but tune in. I think it's tuning in and just decide what swings your boat in this moment. Okay, thank you. I'm way off camera. All the best. That's what happened.